Welcome in, everybody. Today, we're going to be talking about a very interesting topic, and that is creating models for betting in the NFL spread markets. This is something near and dear to my heart. I know you've been requesting it all. So, if this sounds interesting to you, go ahead, give us a like, give us a follow in this video, and let's get right into it.
Give a damn about a hater when I feel like it. Not today, not today, not today, not tomorrow. Get out my way, please. I'm trying to get paid. Not today, not today.
All right, guys, my name is Seth from BTB Analytics. And again, today we are going to be talking about how to create a model in order to use for betting in the NFL spread markets. Now, we're going to talk about a lot of topics like cover probability, regressing to the markets, power ratings. We're going to take all these different concepts. We're going to put them in to work, and we're going to actually leave this video with how to actually bet. I've already put all of the stuff together for you. You're going to be able to just plug and play with the information week to week. And in theory, this should really improve your betting and hopefully your win rate. We're going to talk about a lot of concepts that I think people overlook or maybe not are familiar with, and is going to add a ton of value. Okay, so let me just get situated here. We're going to add some screens. We're going to go through. What are we doing? We're going to go through some of the work that I put together. And again, all this stuff will be linked in the bio below, so you can just click there and get it. I've linked a lot of stuff in the sheet as well, so that you guys can see it and use it. Okay, perfect. So what are we looking at here? So we're looking at a Google Sheet that, again, you're going to have access to, and it's going to have a lot of pages because there's going to be a lot that goes in to doing this accurately. So the first place I want to start is power ratings and what power ratings are. So first thing, what a power rating is a relative rating for each team on the margin of victory scale. What that means is what we're looking at here when we see this blended column. We're saying that we think Arizona is negative 3.96 points worse than an average team. When we see Buffalo, we think that Buffalo is 6.03 points better than an average team. Well, what this allows us to do is give us a relative understanding of team strength on the units of margin of victory or points, right? So we can calculate spreads. Now, there's some nuance here that I want to spend a couple of minutes talking about. Well, what are power ratings and how are they calculated? Well, the reality is they're calculating using a bunch of play-by-play data and regressing those against like points scored, points against, using different offensive and defensive statistics. And a lot of hard work and a lot of time, probably thousands of hours, goes into developing those models and getting those very accurate. So instead of you having to do that, what you can go and do is go find people that are already doing all that hard work and then providing it for free. And so what I've offered, or what I've provided here, are 4 different power ratings that are all data-driven, very accurate, in my opinion, and highly informative. And what we can do with this is we can use all of them together to get a source of truth. So no bias here. Of course, we're going to start with our model, BTB Analytics. We have a power rating, and we can pull these numbers in for our power rating. Shout out NFELO. I've linked all this stuff here. You can get his power rating for each team. Massey ratings, another hugely popular and powerful power rating. And then lastly, Massey Peabody. So these are all power ratings for each team that allow you to pull this information in and give us a relative idea. When we blend these together, what we are saying is we're going to take a little bit of all the information and come up with a consensus, right? And see, okay, based off of where all these 4 are coming from, we're going to come up with what we call the truth. Now, one thing I want to talk about here is the assumption that I'm working with, which is the weighting of each of these models or power ratings. So right now, I have them equally weighted to all be contributing 24% of the 4 power ratings, which will give us an overall rating. If there's a reason why you don't want to weight them all, the same, you can go in here and you can weight them differently. Maybe you want to weight Robbie and Massey as 70% and Massey Peabody and BTB 15% each. You could do that. So play around with this. The one thing I will caution you is the more information you have, especially the more agreements you have, the more power you're going to have. So you want a real good reason why you're going to upweight and downweight, specific models or power ratings. There needs to be a really important reason for that, because you're adding bias. Now, that bias could be hurting you, it could be helping you, but you need to have a really good understanding of why you're doing it. And that's up to you to play with, but the starting place of all of this, right? Basically, this is how we are going to calculate the spreads to work with. Again, these are the 4 I've provided. There are other ones that you can find. There are paid ones as well, but this is how you're going to incorporate them. Down here, this is where you will bring that information in. Now you can always add a power rating, power rating 5, and then you'll just need to add, that column here, and then, add that to your weighting, right? You'll now need to make these 20%, and then you'll add that 5th one. But however you want to do it, you can take ones away, you can add them, however you want to approach it. We're going to spend a little bit of time here, although I don't know, it's important, but there are many ways you can approach this. So what I've done here is I've pulled in 2 really good methods for looking at specific home field advantage numbers for each place or each stadium, really. And what I've done is then I blended these 2 together. A lot of them are agreeing, but some of them, you can see they could be quite different. So I think this is a good way to agree. The other way you could do this is you could use a blanket home field advantage 2.1. You can use, that's something we tend to use in our models. But there's many ways around this. This is just one I've provided with you. If you want to add something else or do this, differently, this is the column where you will change that. Okay, let's get into the meat and potatoes about where all the calculations are coming from, what is actually going on, what you'll need to change week to week, what you can tweak, what the information is going to show. This is the page to do it. Week 1 game info. So in theory, you will need to pull in every week. You'll need to change the week to week 2, and you will need to pull in the matchups, right? So who's the home team and who's the away team for that game, and so on and so forth. So you'll do this for all X number of games. And then what this calculator will do, this sheet will do, is it'll automatically pull in the home team's power rating and the away team's power rating. What this will allow you to do is give you a spread for that game, right? Atlanta's composite power rating is negative 2.88, meaning this team, Atlanta, is 2.88 points worse than an average team. Pitt is 0.38 points better than an average team, which gives you an overall spread of 3.26. This is, you'll see, spread without home field advantage, right? Because we didn't add anything. This is with home field advantage. For the most part, column H is going to be the one you're always going to be using. It's where all the numbers are being pulled in, but we'll talk about some edge cases. We actually have one in week 1 where we can talk about the difference between G and H as far as home field and no home field. I guess no home field. I said that backwards. So you'll see here, right? That's what's being calculated here. Then what we'll do is we'll look at the spread with home field advantage. We just talked about that. And then we'll convert these to spreads for the away team, right? So here's the away team information without home field, with home field, and then home field advantage without home field and home field for home team, right? So that's what columns G, H are home team, I and J are for the away team, right? And what you always want to see is G and I will always be the reciprocal of each other, and H and J will always be the reciprocal of each other. Why? Because we're saying this is how much we think that the home team will win by. This is how much we think the away team will win by, right? And we always want to convert these to spread notation, right? So you'll see this -1 that gets multiplied. That converts us to spread notation. So column H is saying that we think Atlanta should be plus 1.39. Let's call it plus 1.4 on the spread. And we think Pittsburgh should be favored or should win by 1.4 points, right? That's what these 2 are saying. And that's taking into account the home field advantage. Okay, well, what are columns K and L? We have market home, market away. These are the actual spreads. Okay, so this is what the market actually is saying. Why this is important is because the market holds a lot of information, and we're going to talk about regressing to the market in a minute. Where should you get information for K and L? Well, this is a really important point. I want to show you an odd screen, and I want to show you one thing that is important for the difference between market making books and retail books. Bookmaker, Pinnacle, and Circa are what we call market making books. Why are market making books different and why are they important? Because market making books put up a number and move the line based off price action. And so just like a market, when people are betting one way, the market will move that way. If people start betting the other way, it'll move back down. Our retail books, which basically are all the other books, Caesars, FanDuel, DraftKings, BetMGM, all these other books are retail books, and they copy market making books. So if a market maker moves, they move. Why that's important is we want to be using market making books for our source of truth, because this is informed by an actual market. Buying and selling, right? The power and the wisdom of a crowd is highly, highly important, especially in the NFL when we're talking about an insane liquidity. The efficiency of the NFL market is probably second to maybe soccer, and it might be tied for those both being highly efficient markets. In the US sports, NFL is for sure the top dog, the most liquid, aka the most efficient. So we don't want to be taking into account, we're not taking into account these types of information. If we look, this actually got up as high as 3 for the Atlanta Pittsburgh game, but then got bought back down, and people have been betting on Pittsburgh. So you want to take this information into account, and if you can get access to Bookmaker, Pinnacle, or Circa, then you want to be doing it. The reason that's important is you'll see that the retail books can be all over the place depending on what's going on with the market making books, right? Someone has it 2, someone has it 1. They have it all at different odds. So you don't really know what unquote, quote unquote, the sense of truth is. So be careful. Highly recommend that you get your hands on a market making book. One trick, if you can't get an odd screen or don't want to pay for an odd screen, unabated, obviously, we would recommend to you. You can use code BTB to get 5 days free to check it out. But if not, one workaround that I think is a little is not tricky, but I think maybe is really good, is you can download the Las Vegas Circa app. Don't do any other states. Don't do Colorado or any other Circa. Go to Las Vegas. And yes, you can't bet on it, but you can see what the spreads are for every game. So you could download the Circa app and then go look up the spreads, and then you know what the spread is and the price is at Circa. That's really important, and is a free way to get that information if you can't find an odd screen. Other odd screens other than unabated, Spank Odds is another one. Don Best. Those are both pretty expensive. Spank Odds does have a free version. I think that has like a 20-minute delay. But for the purposes of this, that might be okay. So, look into those ways. I think the probably cheapest, easiest way is to just download the Las Vegas Circa app and then use that. Okay. So that's how to get K&L. If you can't get any of that information, use a blend of, FanDuel, DraftKings, and MGM. Sometimes, a lot of the time, they'll be all exactly the same. Sometimes they won't be. Okay. Now, the most important part is something called regressing to the market. Again, it is a market. This is the best thing I can teach you. The most important thing I can try to impart on you. You need to understand when you're betting on sides, totals, and money line, you are betting into a market. This isn't, get rid of the idea of a Wizard of Oz character. Vegas does not exist, guys. It is a marketplace of buying and selling. Professionals are basically buying and selling the price, and it's moving throughout the week. And that's why you see it moving throughout the week. The caveat to this is at the opening spread, the lines are relatively small relative to post or close. What I mean by that is you may only be able to bet $3,000 on opening NFL, but by closing line or post, you might be able to bet $150,000. Well, why is that? It's because all of that buying and selling is going on throughout the week, and they keep increasing the limits. As they keep increasing the limits, there's more incentive for people to bet smaller and smaller edges, and therefore eroding and getting the closing line as accurate as possible. And that's why you'll hear a lot of new bettors say, wow, Vegas really knew what was going to happen. That's not actually what was going on. What was going on is the market was buying and selling this all week. And as the market got more and more and more liquid, it got more and more efficient. And so by the closing line, that number is highly informed. So I say all that because you need to regress to the market. You must. This is a huge, huge mistake that a lot of novice people that build these types of models do not take into account. They just see my number is different than their number, and therefore I'm going to bet it. No, you shouldn't think that way. You should be incorporating the wisdom of what's going on in the market. And you can see here, good models, guys. We've paid a lot of money to consult with people. The worst model you should ever have should never regress more than 80%. The better your model, the more you can regress to your model. So right now, I'm just working with an assumption. We're going to use 20% our numbers, or sorry, 25% our numbers and 75% the market number. Okay. What does that mean? It means that we're weighting the spread 75%, and we're going to weight our number from the power ratings that we're calculating. We're only going to weight it 25%. But the blending of those two numbers is going to give us the quote unquote truth. And when you do this, you're going to save yourself a lot of headache from betting on games where you don't actually have an edge. You're just not incorporating something that the market is incorporating, right? And so you can see, although with the home field advantage, we made this game Pittsburgh should be favored by 1.4 points. After we regress to the market, because the market has Pittsburgh at plus 2.5, that we make this game -2 for Atlanta and +2 for Pittsburgh. So that's a pretty big difference between our raw power rating number that we calculated and what we actually are calling column N and N, the truth, right? What we actually think the game is, because we don't want to ignore what's happening in the market, right? And this makes sense. If the true number was -1.39 and you could get bet 2.5s, every single professional in the world would be betting this 2.5 until it went to 2, then 1.5, then 1, then 0.5, then through the 0, then -1, -0.5, then -1, right? All of that would be happening, but it's not. And it's not happening because there's other things that are happening in the market that we're not aware of, right? Injury to Russell Wilson, uncertainty who's starting quarterback. Maybe there's other injuries we don't know about, or other things happening that we don't know about, right? The market is betting all of those opinions in there. Okay. So we've belabored that point a lot. You must regress to the market. The last thing I will say on this is, how much do you want to regress? I can tell you in our model, we actually regress 35% to our number and 65% to the market. So the unfortunate reality of using these types of methods is you can't back test, but this is something you can keep an eye on week to week. Do you see, oh, okay, these ratings we're using are really accurate, and therefore we should bump our numbers up just a little bit. Maybe we should be using 70-30 or something like that. And you can play around with these. So, they don't need to be set in stone. The one thing I will caution, like I said, I would not go past 80-20. That's the kind of threshold where at that point you're better off just not using the model, right? You need to be at least at the 20-80 or better, right? 25%, 30%, 35%, 40% to your number. The more you're doing your number, the more you're confident in your what you make the number. Okay, great. So now column M is telling us what we think the home spread should be and what the away spread should be. And then what we get to do is something called use the value framework and look up the cover probability. So we for NFL like to use Robbie's NFL value framework. Shout out to him for putting that together and providing that. It's on his website. I've also pasted it here so it can be integrated in the page. What a value framework is a way for us to look at the value of a point. And in football, this is really important because points are nonlinear, right? If you go from 1 to 2, maybe it's the same, but if you go from 2 to 3 or 3 to 4, that jump in cover probability can be a very, very big deal because of field goals and touchdowns. So what this allows us to do is to take any market line and any true line. Again, this is what we're saying the source of truth is. And for all intent and purpose, the truth is what we're calling M and N. And the market line is what K and L are. So what we do is we blend these two, and we basically can go here and look it up. So we can say, I'll just pick something here. The market is -3. This team is, you can bet a -3, but you think they're going to win by 6. This will cover 55% of the time. Okay. So you can bet a 3, but you think the true number is 6. you're going to cover 55% of the time. Okay. Well, what we do then is we take that information and we can say these are the corresponding cover probabilities given what we make the number and what the market is. Okay. And let's try to find one where we have an edge. 60%. So the market is -5, but we make the number -7. Well, this is saying that it'll cover 60% of the time. This is then brings us to column Q, our next beat. Well, what are the odds that you're betting? So most of the time you're going to be betting into a -110 market. And the way you can convert that to a cover probability or an implied probability is you take risk divided by risk plus reward. Okay. So if this actual wasn't 110 odds, but it was plus 100, we would do risk. So I'm going to risk 100 and I'm going to risk plus reward. I'm going to risk 100 and I'll win 100. That is an implied probability of 50%, right? And that's what we know plus 100 is. So you can change what the market is here so you can actually see, well, given the price I can get, what's my break even percentage, right? And that's ultimately what your odds are. Your odds are your break even percentage, the minimum amount of time you have to be right in order to make to break even. So some of these bets, like if you were able to find, if you were able to get this bet at plus 100, it would go from a negative expected value bet or a negative edge bet to something that actually you slightly have an edge in because the odds are break even. So you have a 0.4% edge in that bet because you got better odds than -110. So that's where you'll put this information in, right? In most of the time, you won't need to worry about it, but there's a lot of the time where you can find numbers and you can create bigger edges, or you can take a bet that has no edge to an edge. The same thing then is going on here for the away spread. So column R is then where ultimately you're calculating your edge for the home team and your away team. So this brings us to the very last page, which is kind of the, all of your hard work pays off, so to speak. This is pulling in the bare bones stuff. So it's pulling in the season, the week, the home team, and then what you make the home team spread, what the market is for the home team, and then the edge for the home team. And then on column G, it's the away team, what you make the spread for the away team, the market for the away team, and then your cover probability or your edge, right? So what is your actual edge in that market? So you can see I've already sorted these by edge. So it really likes San Francisco week 1 using these numbers. Why? We make the number 7. The market is -5. So because they're going to win by a touchdown and you can get a 5, you're -110, we should cover this about 7% of the time. Something similar is going on with Buffalo, where you can get the 6.5, but you think they're going to win by 8. So you can cover this. Down here, it looks like it likes LA because we make the number +3, but you can currently get a +3.5. So it's showing you have a 3% edge. Now, the types of edges you want to find, the bigger the edge, the better. We, for instance, in our models, at Open, we only bet things with 4% edge or greater. We find a lot of bets that have smaller edges. Just know this: the smaller the edge, the more bets you have to make in order to realize that edge. Let's just find one here that I think I know. Well, I'm going to sort these by alphabetical. So Atlanta, Pittsburgh. So the market is 2.5, and there's a slight negative edge here on Pittsburgh. So let's go here and let's find that game. Okay, it's right here. So what if we could find a Pittsburgh +100? Okay, what if we were able to find a Pittsburgh +100? All of a sudden, because we have a 51.85% cover probability, but we now were able to get a break even at +100. What we'll see now here is now this bet is now you have an edge. You have a 1.85% edge. So this is what shopping will allow you to do. Another great example I just know because we're debating betting it or not, is this Washington Tampa Bay game. I forget. I think our number makes it 6 in our model, but let's just live in the model that we're working with here. Tampa Bay. Look, we think we make it 5, and there's currently a 4.5. Okay, so what we can do is we can go here. We can say, all right, 4.5 is the market, and we make the number 5, and then here's the cover probability. But there's an interesting thing going on, and we don't know why, and you'll never know sometimes. For whatever reason, the market makers all have it at 4, okay? And they're all fairly similarly priced. But for whatever reason, FanDuel, DraftKings, BetMGM, they all are trying to get action for whatever reason. Who knows what's going on? But they're letting this 3.5, but the market makers, they don't have a 3.5. So why are they off? I have no idea. But we know that these are not sharp books, so it's not informed by a market. So look, actually, a 3.5 minus 110, I could bet. So now I can use my information. You can either do it here, so you can do minus 3.5, but what you want to be on the lookout for is you don't want it to change what your source of truth is, because remember, the market making books are where you want to get your source of truth. DraftKings is not actually taking any action and moving off that action. They're just off market for whatever reason. So you can change it here, or the other thing you can do is you can just go to the value framework and you can look that up. So again, remember, we can bet a 3.5, but we make the number 5. What do you know? Look at that, 53.79%. So I just happen to know here, we just saw if we put 3.5, it doesn't change our regression. So we'll put 3.5 here. So it'll just pull it in for us. Well, what do you know? All of a sudden on that Washington game, we have a 1% edge, 1.4% edge. So this is why you want to shop for, you always hear professionals, if you ever ask them, what's one tip you could give me? It's always shop the line, because of these situations, even if you didn't know anything or have a model, guys, you can see unabated, they'll tell you here. Let me find it. The unabated line is using the market, these market makers, as the truth. They're saying a good number here, if you bet a -4 plus 100, anything better than a -4 plus 101 is a good bet. Well, you can get a -3.5. So this is just saying this is a good bet regardless if you even have a model. Just using the market to price itself is, a discrepancy. So, these are the types of things that you can do with these numbers. Once you have the source of truth here, you can then go shop the market and you can see if there's discrepancies or what, and then you can quantify these edges here, right? You can use these stuff to make sure, to make sure that you're actually identifying even more value. So based off this, now we just increased our amount of bets that we could potentially make. We can bet Buffalo plus -6.5, San Francisco -5.5, Tampa Bay -3.5, LA plus 3.5, and Pittsburgh plus 2.5, and all those we would have an edge. Now you might still have a rule. Well, hey, I'm only going to bet anything with a 3% edge. So you may only bet LA plus 3.5, San Francisco -5, and Buffalo -6.5. The other thing I want to point out is this week 1 market is very unique in that it's open for almost 3 months. It opens in May. So you have all May, June, July, August. So 4 months where we're not actually betting opening lines anymore. So a lot of the early value that was jumping off the page is no longer there. And it's an important aspect that I would point out to you. In a given week, say week 2, for instance, if you were able to update all this stuff by Monday, you're going to see a lot of value on this page. You're probably going to see anywhere from 4 to 5 games where you have at least a 3% or 4% edge. And then you'll be able to bet. So that's what I would recommend. Remember that you're betting into a market, and the longer that market's going on and the more liquidity in the market, the more efficient that said market is. And so unless you can quantify injuries very, very well, you're better off just betting early in the week. Do not be afraid of injuries. Early in the week, bet the edges that you see that have, a large discrepancy. I would probably use 3 or 4%. And then 2, measure closing line value. That is going to be your North Star to see if what you're doing with this type of stuff is actually effective. You're wanting to see that the number you bet is no longer available at close or post. What's that mean? It means that if you bet a 3.5, come close, you want this to be sitting at 3 or at least way worse odds, like plus 3.5 minus 120, and you bet it at minus 110. Or, this Buffalo game closes at 7 at least. This San Francisco game closes at 6 or 7. this Tampa Bay game goes back to 4. This Pittsburgh game closes at 2, for instance. These are the types of things you would want to be looking for. Now, it doesn't mean you need to see that on 100% of your bets. Let's say start with 50% of your bets, but I think a good benchmark is 75 to 80% of your bets. That's when you know you have a really good grasp on a model that is betting things that aren't bet in the market. And that's the one last thing I'll leave you with. You want to bet early because you're wanting to bet information that isn't already reflected in the opening line. And the only way to do this is to bet right away. The spreads that are generated at first are not they're informed. They're not just guesses, but they don't have all of this crazy information baked into it. So if you have an analytical edge, that is the time to bet it. Now, if you have an information edge or an injury edge, you can bet later and later because those things are less and less reflected in the market. But the closer you get to post, the closer you get to the kickoff, that is when, if you see edges here, more than likely there's something you've missed that the market is pricing in that you are not pricing in. So I'd be very cautious to use this at close, but these types of methods can very much work at opening lines. You can also do something similar for this and adopt something similar for this for college. The number of teams in college, I think, is 134 FBS teams. So it grows exponentially in, needing to keep databases and numbers and all that. But just quickly, Massey ratings do have college numbers. NFL Massey ratings do have, or Unabated does have Massey ratings. And then BTB us, we do have college as well. So you can get all that information on those websites. So that's 3 sources you'd be able to get power ratings for if you wanted to do something similarly. I do have a value framework for college. If you want it, just email us, use the link in the bio, or go to btb-analytics.com to get that. Just email me. If I get enough of you to email me, I'll embed it somewhere so you guys can download it. But yeah, good luck, guys. I hope this helps. Like I said, I think that this is a really, really, really powerful way to use to bet. Like, this is it's not exactly how we approach it, but I can tell you a lot of games that are on here as value we've bet. Some of them the market agrees with, where we bet it earlier and the numbers move. Cincinnati jumps out as one where we bet New England plus 9.5. There's some other stuff we see on here that the market that the directionality of these numbers also agrees with our model. So, I don't think you're too far off. I think this is a very, very, very robust analytical approach. If there's any questions, make sure you just reach out to us, put it in the comments. I guess that's another thing. Let me know if you put it in the comments. If I get over, let's say, 1,000 likes and 100 comments asking for college, I'll make one for college so you guys can use it. The link in the bio has this embedded in it, so you can go and use it. Please, I'm going to leave it open for y'all, so do not ruin it for others. If people delete it or whatever, like, I can't, I'm not going to maintain this, guys. I'm going to put it on you to use it and, make it work for you and make it, be profitable for you. But, don't ruin it for everybody by like deleting it or messing with it, because that would obviously not be very cool for the community. Okay, guys, let us know what you thought. If this is helpful, give us a like on this video. It'll tremendously help us grow. If you're not already following, make sure you give us a follow here or on any of the socials. We make a ton of data-driven content to help you be better bettors, to win more, to educate you. And so if that's something that's interesting to you, then I highly recommend you giving us a follow. Without anything else, guys, I'm going to leave you with that. And I'm wishing you all a wonderful 2024 football season. I cannot be excited. We're 2 weeks away, and man, it will be here before we know it. Okay, guys, be well, and always good luck.